Our speaker for this session is here for a particular reason. The last time we heard him was at the NASSCOM Engineering Forum, where he left the forum with a new definition of engineering. A definition where engineering should not be fueling wants, but must satisfy needs. Innovation must not just create a smart world, but also a sensible world. Ladies and gentlemen, we wanted to spread this word to a larger audience, and here we are today discussing consumerism, responsible business focus on needs, not wants. Join me in welcoming Professor Stephen Liu, David Packard Chair in Manufacturing Engineering, Professor of Industrial and Systems Engineering, Aerospace and Mechanical Engineering, and Computer Science Director, University of Southern California. Quite mouthful. Hosting this session is BVR Mohan Reddy, Chairman and Managing Director, Infotech Enterprises. Can we have the AV, please?
Wow. You see, that's the reason I always enjoy giving lecture outside university campus, where nobody give a professor such impressive welcome before the class begins. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you all had a great time last night, and I hope my presentation this morning will be half as good as what you experienced last night. Now, first, I want to thank NASSCOM for inviting me back to be part of this very exciting 2013 Indian Leadership Forum. And this year, the theme of the forum is called Imagining the Future. And we're here to focusing on disruptive innovation for sensible growth. So let me first summarize for you the key point I want to share with you today. The first point may surprise some of you, that I'm going to explain to you why the disruptive innovation has become too disruptive. Why? Because this approach to innovation has shown some very good results for the few. But if you really look inside, it has not made the world a better place for the many. Second, in order for the world to become a better place, we must change our innovation mindset. Instead of focusing on keep rousing the wants of the few, we must focusing on satisfying the needs of the many. That's how we can have sensible growth. So, the second message is we need to focusing on something I will define for you called sustainable innovation. Now, there are many different ways we can do sustainable innovation to serve the need of the many. And I will present to you, in my opinion, the best way to do so is you find a way to empower the many to use very simple, homegrown solution to serve themselves. And that is the key, the self-service innovation model. Now, this model sounds simple, but it requires a lot of fundamental change. I'm going to define for you a new value proposition for innovation. I'm also going to explain to you that our current education system is completely unable to make such self-serve, sustainable innovation happen. If you look at what we've been learning in school, we teach kids technical knowledge. In a business school, we teach people how to imagine a market trend. But you know what? In order to really enable the many to serve the need themselves, we need to have a very deep indigenous understanding of the many. And that is something our education system for sure today. So I'm going to explain to you at the end an initiative I've been doing over the past few years and try to fundamentally change the landscape of education as a way to achieve the sustainable innovation with the goal that we can enable the many to develop very simple homegrown solution to serve themselves. So that will be the message in my presentation this morning. So there are 4 sections. The first section is I want to explain to you very briefly why I believe disruptive innovation has become too disruptive. Then I will explain to you what is sustainable innovation. I will give you a formal definition. Next, I will explain to you the different way to do sustainable innovation, what I think is the best way to do it. And finally, I'm going to show you how we should change our education system so that we can develop the next generation with different mindset and to participate in this sustainable innovation. So, let me begin the first part. I will explain to you why disruptive innovation has become too disruptive. Now, from day one of this conference, you hear everybody talk about we are in the middle of a tough time. And the chairman of NASCOM began the conference by saying this is really a very difficult time and everybody going through the challenge. And the past is already past. The future is very unclear. All this crisis started with the housing bubble. We all know that in the history. And then we have the financial crisis, which in turn lead to the global recession, the economic recession, and the global depression. Well, I'm not an economist. Some people may ask me, what is the difference between a recession and depression? Here's my answer. If you see your neighbor lose the job, that's a recession. If you lose your job, that's a depression. Now, economists may have a very different theory to explain what happened. As an engineer, this is how I see it, okay? First, you have to look at the market, the global market, mostly in the developed world. The middle class has been the driver, the engine of all the innovation activity we talk about here today in newspaper and the magazine. So don't forget, middle class was the engine. Middle class develop a lot of work for the large technical company, develop a lot of innovative solution. Middle class also are our consumer, our customer. So what happened to middle class is when the economic recession or depression hits this time, it severely crashed the middle class, particularly in the developed world. So as a result, the new world become a very different place. You don't have this engine that keep driving the disruptive innovation as you see in the past few years. So what has happened is, because of this recession, the middle class has rapidly shrunk in the world market. As a result, this change has pushed the current innovation paradigm past something we call strategic inflection point. So let me first explain to you what are the different paradigms of innovation so far. Now, if you want to look at innovation, you can look at from the technology side. What kind of technology, what kind of solution you want to provide to the market. And here, people define ways to use better technology to do better than your competition. And business school people also define this as a red ocean strategy, right? So you try to compete in a price and very bloody world. There are 2 different kinds. One is called continuous tech innovation. You improve this gradually. The other one is called discontinuous innovation. You have a complete new technology come out, but either continuous or discontinuous, you all try to sustain in the existing market. So this is from technology point of view, from supply point of view. Now, there's another side, look at innovation, that is you look from the market side. Now here, what you do is you try to make your competition irrelevant. Instead of trying to beat up your competition, you just sell to the blue ocean where nobody there competing with you. In other words, you try to create a new market. You try to disrupt the existing value chain. And this is something that has been very popular in recent years. So, in the book, if you do the technology side, this is called sustaining innovation. Because you try to sustain your existing market. And then, if you try to disrupt the market, create a new market, this is called disruptive innovation. Okay, with this definition, let's look at what's the best way to disrupt the market? So how do you disrupt the market? Well, you look at Apple as an example. Very, very successful company that has been the pioneer in disruptive innovation. Every new product comes out as a new market, right? And therefore, a lot of report has saying, hey, disruptive innovation is the only winning strategy. But you know what? Let's look at what's behind. You find out those success from the current disruptive innovation has mostly come from the new market by rousing the wants of the few. You look at all the product. I'm going to show you some example. Now, I want you to pay special attention to the difference between the wants of the few versus the needs of the many. But the point I want you to understand now is if you look at the current market success of the so-called disruptive innovation, and the best way to disrupt the market is to keep rousing the wants. Keep rousing the wants. Every new product come out and become the fancy things, the cool things to have. Okay? So, while the few has enjoyed the benefit, and the many has suffered from many unintended consequences. That is really why I believe disruptive innovation has become too disruptive. Let me give you some example. You know why this financial crisis happened? It's because people become very innovative in something called financial product, right? Is financial product something you really need or something you want? Well, we want it, right? Because it makes money. Now, let me explain to you how the financial product works. You have this very complex mechanism in the financial package, and you try to sell to someone, and someone bought it. The second morning, that so-called financial product, you look at the news, and didn't do well, it goes down. Now, imagine if you bought a real product, you buy the car. If the car doesn't work second day, what do? You go back to the dealer, right? Because the product comes with a service, right? But now you have a so-called financial product, which is something you wanted yesterday, right? And didn't work. Can you go back to your agent to ask for service? You cannot do that, right? So what do you do then? You try to call your neighbor to convince him that this is good. So you give it to your neighbor. Well, same thing happened to your neighbor, right? Nobody can serve these things, right? So the rest is history. So you can tell if you just try to rouse people's want, and you end up with a lot of innovation which looks very good in the surface, but they are not serviceable. As a result, it creates a bubble. Another thing which is very obvious in our life is the huge amount of waste that generated from this keep rousing the wants. A very good example is this huge price competition that generates a lot of e-waste. Let me show you some e-waste, okay, which I call the gadgets economy. You really cannot build a real economic growth by making gadgets. But you know what? For a certain period of time, the largest company in the world is a company that makes gadgets. Is something wrong with this? Now, let's look at it. How many gadgets will satisfy a person? How many gadgets really someone wants? Is he ready for this? Is it really what he needs? Now, we see a lot of green label these days, right? Sure, they are very green when they make it. But are they really green? I mean, you look at this gadget waste. I bet you everyone here has an iPhone. You probably have 2 or 3 Motorola, Nokia phone at home, which you don't use, right? Think about it. So, what happened is all these gadgets, they don't disappear. Don't believe those things will just suddenly vanish because they are green. You know what happened? They get shipped around. Now, here I show a container. You know what's inside? It's the e-waste that's being shipped from developed market back to the developing market to dump the e-waste. This is the kind of world we're in, because all this approach to rouse the wants of the few. So, for a while, everything works fine. You know, the CEO of Apple used to say, Apple has made product for years that people didn't really know they wanted, but now they have it, they couldn't live without it. You know, he said this about 4 months ago. I remember there was a time when I was making a presentation at NASCOM in Pune. Well, at that moment, Apple was gold, right? Nobody can say anything different. But you know what? 4 months later, you look at what happened. One of the reasons for these things is because people start to wonder What will be the Apple's potential in the developing market? Because those things are really the gadgets which only the few will use. So, here's a very important lesson to learn from the disruptive innovation. That is the following. If we keep stimulating the wants of the few without fulfilling the needs of the many, it is not sustainable. So that is a lesson we learn. So let me now explain to you what is sustainable innovation. First, if you look at innovation, again, you have a two sides to look at it. You can look at it from supply side, what kind of technology you developed. You can look at demand side, what kind of market wants, market needs. Now, I want you to pay attention to the detail here. If you look at this, this is a very well-known Maslow hierarchy. Talks about the market need, people want, right? People's needs, right? If you look at the so-called sustaining innovation, remember the way we define sustaining innovation? Those are really in the middle and try to fight with each other on existing market, right? And then if you look at disruptive innovation try to move upwards, right? So let's try to keep arousing the wants, right? Now you have to see the wants is on upper of the pyramids, right? So what I'm going to define for you now is look the other way. Let's try to do this. We call sustainable innovation to serve the needs of many. And as Chairman said earlier, this is really something we call focusing on the bottom of the pyramids. Okay? Before I go on, I want to first convince you, needs are not the same as wants. Okay. Now, 2012, Time Magazine had a list of the best innovation of the year. Now, there are many products there. One of the products that really amazes me is this one. Can you tell me what is this? This is the best innovation in 2012. Now, while your kids, my kids, may sit comfortably on this toilet training seat and to play with iPad, you have to understand there are so many kids in the world. This is really how they live their life. Now you see the difference between wants and needs? Now, here's the problem. If you keep focusing on the wants of the few, ignore the needs of the many, what happens? You have a social divide. This social divide eventually will drive everybody to the bottom. It's not sustainable. So our choice is very simple. You either rouse the wants of the few. What you will do is you will expand the market by disrupting the market. You increase your profit in the short term. Looks pretty impressive. Then you generate a lot of waste. You lead to social divide. And that's happening. And you can see that. Or you try to do this. You try to satisfy the needs of the many. And then you have to have a long-term strategy. You have to develop the insight of the very vital and the social needs to sustain the humanity. So you have to understand the difference and the different focus. Okay. So here we need a new paradigm shift in innovation. First, we had this sustaining innovation. That's the old thing. And now everybody wants to talk about disruptive innovation. I would suggest to you, let's look beyond. Let's look at something called sustainable innovation. And we have already defined a key feature of sustainable innovation is you want to serve the need of the many. However, that's only half of the story. Because the question now is, how do you serve the need of many? That matters. So here is the complete definition of sustainable innovation. I define sustainable innovation must empower the many to use simple solutions and indigenous resources, minimal resources, to serve the need of the many, and better yet, you know what? Ask them to serve themselves. That will be the best one. So let me give you more explanation on this point. So what is sustainable innovation? First, your target market has to be different. You have to target on the need of the many. Number two, your solution has to be different. Your solution has to be simple. Sometimes it's low tech, sometimes no tech. And you have to really understand minimal resource is always a better innovation. Last one is very important. The player, the stakeholder of sustainable innovation is what? It's the many. It's you and me. It's not the people sitting in Silicon Valley in San Jose. And more importantly, if we you, me, and the people on the street are able to serve their needs themselves, then we have a truly sustainable innovation. Okay? And because of time limitation, I will not go through this. This is not really a complete new concept if you look at it. There's many things we talk about. Say, for example, you can focus on bottom of the pyramids. You can do more with more. Frugal engineering has been talked about. Now, this is a very interesting, very indigenous concept in India. Pardon me for the Hindi, it's called jagat. Jagat, okay. I mean, if you look at the definition, this is actually very close to what we talk about here. And certainly they have a different focus. If we have time, I can explain to you the different focus. So, now we understand what is sustainable innovation. Let me explain to you how you can do that. How you do that. There are different ways to do it. The first way is you try to empower the few to serve the many. Who are the few? Local government, large corporation, right? They can serve the many. But there's a better way to do that. You try to empower the many to serve the need of the many. So the many has to be not only the benefit from the innovation, they have to also participate in the innovation. That really makes what's sustainable. And the best kind is this. You empower the many to serve the need themselves. Then the world will really become a better place, right? So if you look at what required on these three different approach, if you empower the few to serve the many, most likely you end up with industrial scale solution, right? Large scale solution, industrial solution, high-tech solution. Okay? If you enable the many to serve the many, well, you and me, often we were limited with resources, limited with knowledge, we'll end up with simple and homegrown solution. Best yet, if you're able to really do innovation with local and hidden resources, those are the resources which you have it, you just didn't see it, and it's free to you. If you're able to solve your problem, simple problem, a simple solution solves the major problem with big impact, the best solution, the best innovation. Okay? So let me give you some comparison. You can choose which way you think is best. Okay, suppose I need electricity. Suppose our countryside people need electricity. What do? Well, you build a power plant, right? But you know what? You can actually invent a device which uses gravity to generate electricity. Now, there's no new science behind it. This is simple, very simple principle behind the grandfather clock. You know how the grandfather clock works? Hey, you can generate the electricity to light the room. Okay? Suppose you need drinking water. Sure, let's build a huge water purification plant, right? But you know what? You can actually build a very simple tube, which basically is a straw with different chemical inside, and the kids can actually drink directly with this straw from the river. You choose which one you want, right? Okay, we all need a bank, we need a financial service, right? So let's open a bank branch, right? But you know what? There's another way to do that. There's a microfinance, there's a different way to do it. So you'll find out there's an easy way to do it, there's a hard way to do it. Your choice is, do you want to really do what's up there, which are always resource intensive? They are high risk, they're expensive, you know what? They invite a lot of corruption. Or you want to do the lower one, which they are resource lean, low risk, they are easy, they are friendly to the environment. So the choice is yours. Okay. Let me give you some example of how do you use hidden resources. Remember I said that's the best one, right? So this is something I define as the self-serve approach. Self-serve approach. What you do is you empower the many. They will develop the simple solution with hidden local resources to self-serve their own needs. And the resources are hidden, but if you have the creativity, you should be able to harvest the resources to solve the problem. Say, for example, you need to preserve the food. You know, this is a very well-known invention for 100 years already called zero pot, right? You can basically build a pot and put food there as long as there's two local conditions, which have a sufficient airflow and a low relative humidity. Once you have these two local resources, you can actually do that without electricity, right? You know, people can actually build a much better toilet. We're certainly not playing iPad here. But you can build a much better toilet by just looking at how the wind blows. You can actually move the water by very simple physics principle. Those are the things which end up to be most sustainable. But they are very different from the industrial mindset, which we're so used to it. Now, if you recall the first day, the minister explained to us there's different industrial revolution. The first revolution is the steam engine. The second revolution is Henry Ford production. And the third revolution now is IT. But you know what? In a lot of sense, even now we are in the third revolution, our mindset are still the same as this Henry Ford mass production. So every problem must have a huge factory, must have an industrial scale development. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. Okay? So, a lot of things have to be changed. You have to change your value proposition. If you look at traditionally how you look at innovation, this is how you decide if you are CEO, you are investor, this is how you decide on whether you should do an innovation project. That is, you look at the market return, you look at the investment. Very simple way. That is not going to be the value proposition for sustainable innovation. In sustainable innovation, you should look at the equation in a very different way. Number one, you should look at what's the scale of the needs. And number two, the simpler, the better. The simpler, the better. So what you do is you have to shift your mindset from trying to maximize the corporate ROI into something which I believe is the key for sustainable future. You have to minimize the social divide. The more innovation you do, the social divide should be minimized. That should be the driver of sustainable innovation. Okay? So, let me move to the last part, that in order to do all these things, the skill set requirement is very different. Say, in the early days when we want to do sustaining innovation, right, we want to develop better technology. So we have to really learn a lot of technical knowledge. And now, in the disruptive innovation, and what we do is we have to have something called market imagination. We have to imagine the market, right? See how the market goes, right? But you know what? For sustainable innovation, what you need? You need to have something called indigenous understanding. You have to truly understand how the many live their lives. Okay? So, it requires a different skill set. Unfortunately, there's nowhere such skill set can be learned. Because you go to engineering school, they teach you this, right? And you go to business school, they teach you this, right? Now you say, well, okay, I want to do sustainable innovation. Which school do you go to? The answer is no. We don't teach that. So what I want to do at the end is I want to share with you some initiative we started 4 years ago and try to address this question. How do we prepare our young to really be able to develop the skill set that truly understand the indigenous culture around the global market in order to be a player in sustainable innovation? So, if you look at what's wrong with the current education, the current education focuses on content. Content are those things described in the book. But you know what? To really understand, have an indigenous understanding, you need to understand the context. Right? Context is really what makes sense for the content to make sense. Second, everybody want to do disciplinary study, interdisciplinary study. You know what? For sustainable innovation, now you have to have a transcultural understanding, across the culture. Next one. Rather than having our students sit in the classroom passively listen lecture, they have to interactively engage in order to be really truly understand the indigenous culture. The last one is very interesting. The IT technology has made a big difference in education so far. We call distance education, right? How do you do distance education? You try to use IT to enlarge the delivery distance from a teacher to student, right? But you know what? I suggest we should now do something called no-distance education. What is the difference? In no-distance education, what you do is you use IT to eliminate the distance between learner, regardless where they are. There's no distance. So, based on all this belief, And 4 years ago, I started an initiative called iProdia. The purpose is really try to change the current education landscape to support sustainable innovation. So let me explain to you, and there's a lot of information about iProdia, you can find it later. Let me explain to you what I stands for. The number one I is called inverted learning. Inverted learning basically saying you want to change the focus from the content to the context. So the learning focus is on context rather than content. You know why? Because most content now are available online. And better yet, they are free now. So if you keep focusing on content, you will really be out of business. You have to focus on context, so you have to inverted learning. The second I stands for interactive. Because we believe that if you want to learn indigenous understanding, what you learn depends on with whom you learn, right? And the last one is called international learning, because we believe that if you have a chance to learn with people who are so different from you, you learn more. So the diversity is actually a great source of learning. Okay? So we developed this iProdia program that crossed the physical boundary. We use IT to link the classroom, regardless where they are, cross institutional boundary. We have multiple universities. Right now, the institutional boundary is very severe, right? You get a degree from one institution, you only take courses at one institution. Who says so? It doesn't have to be that way. And then we can cross the cultural boundary, right? So this is a typical iProdia classroom where the students sit in the middle here. We have a large screen like this, and we have a one-sided wall which has a remote classroom, students in their life. So this is not a distance education, you simply participate from home. You have to come to the classroom, okay? You have to actively engage into questions. And then there's another classroom on the other side, and all these things become one learning environment for students to debate, to discuss their cultural understanding and contextual understanding, okay? So we had built this classroom, and let me just give you one quick scenario, and I don't know whether we have time for a short video, maybe not.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many minutes does the video run?
Okay, let me quickly go through this scenario, okay? This is a scenario where you can see I started a question. I asked a question to student, okay? And a student from America will answer the question. Instead of commenting whether the answer is right or wrong, I will pass the question to China. Immediately pass to China. And the Chinese student will start at their point. And then immediately pass to Taiwan, to USC, to China, and to Taiwan. And now we have 10 partners around the world. And eventually, the whole thing become a integrated learning environment, regardless which university you come from, regardless the physical boundary and cultural boundary. Okay. Now, I will try to show you a very quick video here to see how the things work. I hope the video works here. The idea is to open the classroom from any university for them to join together so that students can engage in peer-to-peer learning as a way to inspire global innovation. As people start to exchange those value information, and you can start to collect value, right? Yes? There's something here?
Oh, I was just going to say the same kind of
I
premise
see students
applies to
participating
Gramster
online.
or other services like that. I
Yes.
think, where, if you solve ever so many problems and everyone else ensures that it's correct, they'll give you access to other correct.
Now, any suggestion from PKU, NTU side? They immediately have passed it back to Beijing.
Yeah, there are many successful cases, but I still doubt. Why should I share my information to others? It didn't make any sense to me.
Normally, you see this kind of information sharing is as such that for each individual, the effort is nothing. But collectively, that seems to become very valuable. Any questions? Yes, go ahead.
But still, I have a question is, like Wikipedia. It is true that I did my little job and I get much. But even if I didn't do anything, I can still get the information, right?
Well, I have that sign called time out. So I will try to move back to my presentation. And if you are interested in this demonstration, you can see many such video clips on YouTube. Okay, there's many. If you type iPodia, you will see all the YouTube clip come out. Okay, and there's a lot of things I want to share with you about iProdia, but the important thing I want you to know now is this movement has started a global change. And now we have 10 universities around the globe, each representing different cultural area, to join this platform, to share their classroom together, and to have students to learn together. And our partner in India is right in town here, IIT Mumbai. So we have a student learning together. And this year, the iProdia course we teach here has 120 students from 5 universities. And they all learn together and try to take advantage of the cultural diversity to learn how to really understand the indigenous requirement of the many. Okay? So, many of you may have heard of the recent movement called MOOC, right? Have you heard of MOOC?
Yeah.
MOOC is a big thing. Now, you go to Google MOOC, and you have a lot of things come out. MOOC stands for Massively Open Online Courseware, okay? So, MOOC basically try to put all the courseware, the video, all the things online, and they have free access, okay? So this is how the iProdia and MOOC complement each other. Okay? What we do now is we ask our students to watch all the MOOC video from the best teacher in the world, MIT professor, Harvard professor, everywhere, because all the content now are in the cloud, right? After they watch all this content, they come to the iProdia classroom, and then they try to interact with their other students who also watch the content and try to express their different viewpoint. Okay? So we believe our iProdia initiative is in full complementary with the MOOC initiative. One focusing on making the content of the subject available online, free, for everybody to access. And the other one, the iProdia, focusing on making sure people have the chance to interactively learn from each other. So the goal of this initiative is really try to do something we call learning together for a better world. So, here are the key points. First one, the sensible growth can only be attained by a major paradigm shift. We have to shift the paradigm from disruptive innovation to sustainable innovation. Because I believe unless the needs of the many are served, no growth will be sensible. Number two, the sustainable innovation is best achieved by empowering the many to use very simple local solutions to serve themselves. And this self-serve innovation model requires you to really have different skill set. You need to understand you need to have an indigenous understanding of the many. And we must change our education system to focusing on mutual understanding, to cross the border, cross the culture, so that our next generation can be the active player of sustainable innovation. And I have just shown you one example called iProdia. So let me finish my presentation with some final thoughts. Number one, we all read a book about the world is flat, right? Is the world really flat? Is the world really flat? I believe the world will not be really flat until the world of innovation becomes flat. Number two, can the world of innovation become flat? I believe the world of innovation will not be flat until the world of education becomes flat. So what can we do? I invite everybody to work together. Let's try to flatten the landscape of education. Let's try to level the playing field of innovation. Let's try to create a flat world for the many. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, we are running very tight on time, I believe. We'll probably still have a few minutes to take a few questions from the audience. Just two of them, I believe. So, whoever hand goes first, can we have the mic there, please?
Yeah, I'm Sandeep here. I have a question regarding the innovation that you talked about. So any major innovation that you would have seen in the science or technology, initially it will be probably a disruptive innovation because it's something different from what we used to perceive, what we are taught to perceive. like, if you look at the old days, probably, the steam engine could have been a disruptive innovation at that point of time. But over a period of time, when mass starts using that and leveraging that, it becomes a sustainable or sustained innovation.
You need to keep
So
the questions.
are those really different, or those are same? Initially, it will be disruptive, later it will become sustainable or sustained.
I have to say it's almost impossible to hear the question from the stage here. I don't know whether other speakers have this problem. I really cannot understand the question. I'm sorry about that. Anybody can help me to repeat this?
Steve, I think what he's trying
okay.
to say is that there was sustainability in terms of innovation in the past in science and technology. How is this sustainability different from the past?
Okay. Well, good question. The sustainability has always been a concern in many people's mind. My new message is the following. Unless we empower the many to be the player of this sustainable movement, it's not truly sustainable.
Good.
That's why I keep saying you have to empower the many to serve themselves.
We'll take the last quick question, please. Yes. Whoever gets the mic.
Professor, you made one of the last points where you said to minimize the social divide. Would you go one step further to eliminate the social divide? Well,
Yes. That's my answer, yes. Yes. But a major shift has to start from somewhere. I really believe it is the perfect time for us now to change our mindset. To eliminate social divide certainly sounds very ambitious. But you know what? We have to start it. Otherwise, it's going to be too late. There's no point to keep rearranging the deck chair on the sinking ship. Let's start it to really think what's important, what makes us all be a better place for the world.
Good, thank you. Steve, that's been an outstanding presentation. On behalf of NASSCOM, I'd like to thank you for taking the trouble of traveling all the way from Los Angeles to come and speak with us this morning. I think certainly it makes all of us think at this point of time to say how do we participate in this social sustainable innovation, empowering many so that the benefits also goes to many people around the world. Thank you very much, Steve. It's always a pleasure hearing you.
Thank you.
It's been a wonderful presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Professor Liu, thank you so much for such an insightful session. Mr. Reddy, may I please request to present a small moment of appreciation to Professor?
That's your picture. That's a small gift. Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, let's read. Okay. I should give it to you, right? Thank you. Thank you.